Hey everyone, Leanne, Pilkington and Tim McKibbin here from the REINSW for your daily update. And when Tim was just joking with me, saying, you know, when we said we'd do these daily, he didn't know what we were going to be able to talk about. But Tim, we've got plenty to talk about today, haven't we?
Absolutely, and every day. and I think they keep changing their mind on what it's going to look like. So, you everybody needs to stay in touch with it, don't they?
Yeah, totally. So let's start with auctions. We had some, we are still waiting for final confirmation from Fair Trading, but we did have some potentially good news about our auctions for tomorrow. Do you want to go through what that is?
Yeah. So maybe we should start with what we thought it was yesterday, and that way we can, because I think we did tell a few people yesterday. So the position yesterday afternoon, this time, was that an auctioneer should stay at home in their own home if they can, and the agent should stay in their home if they can. And for that reason, they couldn't go out to their auction rooms or to the property and etc., which was going to make life a little bit hard. But that, you know, what we said yesterday, that is what it is, and that's what it is. But today we found out that no, what you can do as an auctioneer and an agent, you can be together either at the agent's offices or at the auctioneer's rooms or even at the property. But if you're at the property and the vendor is there, then there's going to be some issues about people in the house and all that.
However,
sort of thing.
We can't ask people to leave their home because we're telling everybody they need to stay home. So we need to them just to, you know, show a bit of logic and have them in a different room or get them to sit in the backyard or something like that, right?
Yeah. There's plenty of entertainment in all this, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that is all good news. I thought something interesting. Sorry, go on.
That is auctions as of 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. I think we need to date.
Yeah. I think we do too. And I think we also need to be very mindful that Fair Trading did say to us that they are not the enforcement authority. And so what that means is Fair Trading are not the people that come around and fine you for not behaving in the correct manner. That is the police. And we are still waiting for the police to sign off to say, yes, auctions can happen in that way that Fair Trading have indicated that they can. So, you know, obviously it's getting late, and hopefully we will get that confirmation from police and you will know about it just as soon as we do. Okay, so the other thing, obviously, we know that National Cabinet are meeting as we speak, and we've been told that we will have some response from New South Wales as to the rent relief within days. So,
yeah. So, and that's terrific. I'm just not quite sure what in days means, but like you, I'm aware that ScoMo's come out and had a bit to say in this space, but I haven't had a chance to fully research it. But apparently one of the things that he did say is that tenants have to pay their rent unless they can demonstrate a reason not to. Yep. So that's been an interesting shift, I think, in the narrative that's gone on since the beginning of this debate. And I think that the plight of the landlord was completely overlooked in the early stages of it. And with some of the media work that you've done in that space, you've actually dragged the landlord's difficulties into the limelight, and it'll be interesting to see what the detail looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all waiting on the details. So that will be Monday's update. I'm sure, hopefully, we'll know by then. I also wanted to talk about the fact that we've got a lot of properties that are settling in coming weeks and coming months, I guess. And it's okay if it's an owner-occupier leaving, but if it's a tenant that's leaving, that's a bit of a challenge, right? Because we know what's gone on in Tasmania. Do you want to share that?
Not really. That's a horrible story. So what's happening in Tasmania is that if there is a tenant there and it's a sale and the tenant says, I don't want to leave, then you can't kick them out, which would mean in New South Wales, if that was to be replicated, that the vendor couldn't give vacant possession. So on the date of settlement, the the purchaser would say, there's somebody living in my house, here is a notice to complete, and 14 days later, if the vendor couldn't get the tenant out, and if it was replicated as in Tasmania, then the purchaser terminates the contract and sues the vendor. So bad outcome for vendor, and agent wouldn't get their commission, and yeah, as I said, not a good story.
Really tough. And so we have we've been speaking to government directly to the Minister's office, in fact, about this very issue. And I was told this afternoon that they are drafting new laws to deal with the reasons you can have a tenant enforce a tenant leaving. So it's not about evicting tenants that aren't paying rent, but we don't know what it looks like yet. So that's a wait and see, and keep all your fingers and toes crossed that we get a positive outcome with that one. I think being able to share what's going on in Tasmania has actually helped in this space.
Yeah, because I think it's because of the speed at which these things are moving.
Oh, no doubt.
But people are bringing this stuff out and saying, well, here it is, I've solved that problem, not realising that they've created another one.
Well, we've always said that, right, about there's so many unintended consequences when government makes decisions. That's why it's so important that they actually engage with all of the stakeholders.
To make sure our voice in that space was amplified, I also contacted the Law Society and told them to make a fuss as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, that's, fantastic. I also, in fact, I haven't shared this with you yet, but I just found out about 10 minutes ago that the police were checking at a real estate office out in the Hills District to ensure that they were implementing social distancing in an appropriate fashion. So the police are out and about actually entering offices and checking that you're doing the right thing. So please make sure you do the right thing, because otherwise it impacts everybody, right?
Yeah, good message.
Yeah, so, and to that end, obviously we've had the opposition leader come out this afternoon talking about one instance where a property manager asked somebody who was unwell and self-isolated to go out and have a walk so that they could show the property for sale. And that one instance of a real estate agent being really irresponsible has been all over the news. So that just echoes the importance of actually everybody doing the right thing.
It's a sad reality, isn't it, that if one person within the profession does something wrong, we all get tarred with that brush.
Yeah, absolutely. And now is not the time, because we all need the industry to continue and for us to be able to do our jobs. So
yeah, right.
And also to that end, Tim, ASIC have sent a letter to the Real Estate Institute about suggesting tenants access to superannuation.
I don't know is the short answer to that one, Leanne, but I'm a little bit curious to know the exact conversation or the exact evil that they have seen it necessary to write to all of the institutes setting out this particular issue. If an agent said you need to take money out of your superannuation account to pay your bills, then that is financial advice. Alternatively, if the agent said, well, here is all of these government sites that you can go to and to get assistance, and are you aware that the government is making available to you the opportunity to take super out? Which is, again, I underline this, this is what the government has said, that you can do this. Now, if somebody wasn't aware of it and you make them aware of it, then, and it is a mechanism for them to be able to have some financial peace, then you've done them a favour. But if you're pushing them to do it,
it's a completely different story, right? But I think just to play it safe, like we really have to. And I know it's not in my nature necessarily to play things safe, but these are different times, and so just to play it safe, it's a matter of just referring. If you've got tenants that are in difficulties, refer them to the ASIC website. They've got all of the options of all of the things that tenants can explore, and that way you're just pointing them in the right direction, but you're not giving them any advice that can be misconstrued.
No, that's right. And just while we're on that subject, we would be very close, my team bless them, would be very close to putting up a document that property managers can use with residential tenants.
Great.
So it's just a series of websites that that the property manager can give tenants, just to make them aware that there is help out there and where to go and get it.
I don't know if you managed to see the email from the Real Estate Institute of Australia that just came through about 10 minutes ago, but they had news that commission-only salespeople, it has been confirmed that if the agency is entitled to be part of the JobKeeper program, commission-only salespeople are also able to claim that or to be able to get that payment. So that's great news.
Yeah, it is. I haven't seen the detail of that particular.
What do you mean you haven't seen the detail?
Well,
there's so much detail around, Tim. Not.
Yeah, I'm a little bit curious about that it applies to them because I've been saying to people, I think you should go and register.
Definitely.
Just go and register.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know what it looks like yet, but go and get in the queue. And we'll see where it lands.
Yeah, absolutely. And on our webinar earlier today with Steve Fisher was saying the 30% reduction in income, because obviously it was the first quarter of last year for the real estate industry, particularly in New South Wales, it wasn't a great time. So if we were experiencing 30% less now than that, we'd probably be out of business. But what they are saying is if you can forecast your June quarter, that might be 30%, or if you can forecast your June quarter, compare it to June quarter last year, and it's okay to use that as your 30% gauge rather than having to use the current quarter. So that might be helpful for some of those business owners out there.
Yeah, that's interesting because if you compare real estate to a coffee shop, so last week I sold 1,000 coffees, and this whole thing went horrible, and this week I sold 600 coffees. Well, clearly my income has dropped, but in that case by 40%.
Sure.
But that's very measurable in real time. But with real estate, we're not actually seeing our money for 6 or 8 weeks later. So they've got to have systems analysis for these things that respond to each industry.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, our industry is quite different in that regard. So material fact, one of our favourites. That was an interesting conversation today with Fair Trading about whether COVID-19 should be considered material fact.
Yeah, well, and and they said yes, it is. So if there is somebody who has COVID-19 and in the property, and then that has to be disclosed. I just can't understand the circumstances where that would actually come together. I'm not an expert on this, but I think the virus can only live for a maximum of 72 hours. Don't quote me on that. Even on the right surface. Yeah. But nonetheless, it is a material factor, at least for the 72 hours. Yeah,
at least at the moment. That's one of those things, right, that hopefully when we get on the other side of this, it may not be considered to be essential. But at the moment, it's considered a material fact.
Yeah, I think we're all looking at our forms and agreements right now and inserting, in the case of a pandemic,
Yeah, exactly. Who'd have thought? It was interesting to hear that it's being suggested that maybe commercial landlords that are helping out their tenants, that might be considered for some land tax relief. Maybe that land tax can be sort of paid back to the tenant. I don't think there's any detail or any confirmation on that, but it's just...
No. And look, I think that's appropriate. Again, the Prime Minister said what we have to do is we all have to shoulder a bit of the load here and experience a little bit of the pain. So we know that the tenant's in pain; they're not getting any income. We know that the landlord is going to get less rent. So then we're saying, well, state government, banks, how much pain are you suffering? And in regard to the banks, I've added up absolutely none. But the state government is something that they can step forward with land tax, and that's the obvious one. Step forward with land tax, and to do anything other than that is in my view unconscionable.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that we're calling on the state government to do, we're not going to put too much pressure until next week before we get our rent relief packages formalised, but to try and stimulate some buyer interest out in the market, we're calling the state government to give us a significant reduction in stamp duty for a set period of time so that we can try and generate some sales in the next sort of 3, 4, 5 month period.
Yeah, and really what we're saying to them is be smart like our landlords are. So the landlords are saying, this is the environment we're in. If I insist on the rent that I was getting last week, I'm not going to get it. I want to hang on to my tenant. I want to receive something. So we'll do a deal.
Exactly.
Is it the deal they want? No, but is it the best deal they can do at this time? Yes. And I think the same message has to go through to our treasurer.
Yeah, totally.
If you insist on getting all of the stamp duty you were getting 6 months ago on a sale, it won't happen. But if you're smart, you'll get a bit of churn, you'll get some money.
Yeah, you won't get any, hardly at all. And it's got to be a good thing because, all the real estate agents watching this know how many small businesses hang off the back of a real estate transaction. There's conveyancers and there's photographers and there's brochure people and stylists. The list goes on and on and on. So if we can generate some more sales activity, that is helpful, not just for real estate agents, but for everybody.
Right. 5% of something's a lot better than 10% of nothing.
Correct. Absolutely right. So I've gone through my list of questions. Is there anything that I've missed that you want to talk about? There's probably a lot that I've missed actually, but is there anything you'd like to talk about today?
No. As you said earlier, I said to you that I couldn't believe we're going to do this every day, but I'm wondering now whether we should do it twice a day.
Yeah.
There's so much happening, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is.
I have such sympathy for our members out there trying to absorb all of this, and as you know, at the same time they've got the rental the rental reforms have come through. As you say, run a business, and also the other reforms in industry reforms coming through. But thankfully, at least we got 6 months grace period in there to try and absorb that.
Now, I did want to actually raise that, so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I've been getting messages from property managers saying, 6 months great. It's a bit like the tenants saying 6 months, no evictions, okay, I don't have to pay rent. They're saying 6 months, I don't have to implement the reforms, but that's not the case. There's the fair trading won't fine you, but there's still an expectation that the reforms, you will be acting in line with the new reforms. Right?
That's right. Yeah. 100% right. It's a bit like what I think Stamo said. There's an expectation that you pay the rent. Now, if there's a reason you can't, then there's a reason you can't. But if you can, you should. So there's similar here. You should be looking to adopt all of the new reforms to get it into your business. You can't say, "Oh, good, I've got an extension. I'll worry about it in 6 months." That's not what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. On that note, I might let you go. I know you've got one or two things you need to do.
Thank you. We will talk again on Monday, by the sounds of it.
Yep, we sure will. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.